Hello, it's Amy. Welcome back to my reading corner. And I'm back again with some more entries from the Journal of Emily Shore. This is the diary of a teenage girl in the 1830s. And you can, listen to this video as a one-off. The entries are quite enjoyable, I think, in and of themselves. Whether you've listened to the entire playlist or not, or if you're finding this video for the first time, you can check out the Journal of Emily Shore playlist on my channel page and begin to listen from the start because we are about 100 pages into the journal now, and we are just about to begin June of 1835. And she had been paying a visit to London in the previous entries for the month of May. So June 3rd, Wednesday, 1835. Leaving the Coliseum, we returned to Welbeck Street and, accompanied by Mrs. A.M., went to the Pantheon Bazaar in Oxford Street. As I never saw a bazaar before, it appeared to me quite splendid. There was one very large arched room with a gallery round the top, and some other rooms above stairs. Besides a conservatory below, containing a pretty fountain. We remained here a very long time, making some purchases. I bought a few things for the children at home, engravings for Richard and Arabella, a pencil case for Louisa, and a 6-inch ruler for Mackworth. As for myself, I was a long time fixing on anything, not because I wanted everything, but because I saw nothing which I wanted. For I never am plagued with a wish to buy everything I see. I should, after all, have gone away without making any purchase, but as Grandmamma and Aunt Charlotte had very kindly given me some money to spend in London, and Papa also, I thought I may as well buy something, as tomorrow we shall depart. So I got a box of chalks of different colors to draw with, and a pretty little glass bottle to put eau de cologne in. June 5th, Friday. But now for the Dockyard, perhaps the most interesting and wonderful place I have seen since I left Woodbury. It extends along the bank of the Medway and is nearly a mile in length. It contains ships of different kinds being built and manufactories of all kinds and different parts of vessels. We first went to look at the ships themselves. There are a great many now in the docks, chiefly warships of different sorts. Many were ships of the line. Over each is built a shell or roof of timber, which is dotted all over with windows and is supported by posts. The vessel in this state is, of course, without masts. We looked at these for a short time. One was just begun, and the other had only the keel and the ribs. Another was a little more advanced and had the naked ribs covered with planks running lengthwise. Another had already been launched and was quite being completed. The masts were already fixed in, and all the decks and cabins were quite formed. We went on board and examined every part of it. It was a 74-gun ship of the line. It was called a two-decker because it had only 2 gun decks. But it had in reality 4 decks beside the hold. The poop makes a sort of 5th deck. The names of the decks are as follows: the poop, the quarter-deck, the main deck, the orlop deck, which last has no windows and is the dreary habitation of the poor midshipmen. The captain's cabin is a very tolerable place, but all the cabins are so low. I was quite amazed at the prodigious size of the vessel. It is called the Hercules. From the docks we went to the forge. This is an immense and lofty room full of anvils, fires, furnaces, bellows, etc., and smiths at work. Here the anchors and other iron implements are made. We saw some men at work on the fluke of an anchor. A vast iron bar was heated red hot, and then a piece was cut off. One man laid a chisel on it, drawing it along in the proper direction, and 4 others, each in turn, gave it a blow with a heavy hammer. Well, the chisel was too hot. The man ran and dipped it in the cold water. Well, the piece was cut off. The bar, reduced to shape, was laid on several others of the same form, which were all to be welded together. We saw the process on welding 2 pieces of iron. They were laid in a fire with their ends together. Fuel was heaped over them, and they were heated red hot. The place was intolerably hot, and we soon left it. Next, we went to the sawmill. This is the most wonderful part of the whole dockyard. We first saw the steam engine, which is of a prodigious size and moves with a thundering noise. Of course, the heat is intense. The saw room is very spacious and is filled with the most complicated machinery, all set in motion by the steam engine. There was a single circular saw about 18 inches across, which revolved 650 times in a minute and cut great pieces of timber into some kind of shape. The timber was made to approach by machinery. The larger saws were the most remarkable. These were fixed in rows along the middle of the room. They are perpendicular and very tall. 6, 8, or any number of saws are fixed into one machine, the number being according to the number of planks into which a piece of timber is to be cut. The timber is dragged on by iron claws, which pull it forwards in the most curious way, and the saws cut it by jumping up and down with great noise and swiftness. I could have stayed here for hours watching the machinery, but alas, we only had 10 minutes to spare for it. Thence we went to see the machine for dragging up the timber out of the pit in which it is kept a season, after being brought down the river by an underground passage. This machinery is not so complex as the rest, and is easily understood. The iron boat is suspended by a chain which goes over a pulley. At the other end the timber is hooked, and the boat, being filled with water, descends into the pit. As it descends, the timber, of course, rises, and then by farther machinery is made to travel into the sawmill. We could only give a few minutes to the turning room, where everything is on the same gigantic scale. When we had seen this, Mamma, being much tired, sat down to rest, while Cousin Edward took me to see the leaden pipes made. Unluckily, they had left off working for the day, and we came just in time to see a sheet of lead cast. When we came in, a quantity of lead was boiling in a large copper, till it was sufficiently melted to be cast into shape, which took place a minute after we entered. Close to the copper is a cistern, and joined to this is the mold, a shallow reservoir with a deep part at one end, separated by a little ledge. On the shallow part is a layer of smooth, moist sand, leaving about 3.5 inches between the sand and the top of the edge all around. Everything being ready, a little door in the side of the copper was opened, and out rushed a hissing stream of liquid lead into the reservoir below. When it was all out, it floated about in the cistern like quicksilver, with all the dross at the top. This a man skimmed off with 2 boards. The lead is then stirred about, and at the proper time it is put into the mold, which is effected as follows. A chain is fastened to the edge of the cistern, passes over a beam in the roof, and is pulled by a wheel and axles on the floor. A man slowly turns the handle. The cistern is raised up, and out runs the liquid lead into the mold. Here it spreads equally, and when it begins to flow over into the hollow, they stop. The lead settles. A man draws a board over it and scrapes off the dross into the hollow. The lead is now pure and looks like a sheet of quicksilver, but it presently cools and congeals into a massive solid sheet 3 tons in weight. About 5 sheets are cast in a day. And I'm a little bit puzzled why she said unluckily. Unluckily, they had left off working for the day. I guess she says unluckily because they were obviously still working when she arrived, so I guess perhaps she was hoping to see more. And it was unlucky because when they arrived, they were just finishing up, and I guess they only saw, one thing occur. June 6. Our excursion today was to Cobham Hall, the seat of Lord Darnley. The woods and gardens are very beautiful, with dells and dingles prettier than anything I ever saw. They want nothing but water. The gardens are full of splendid flowers. There are whole thickets of laurels, rhododendrons, and magnolias. There are azaleas of a fine orange color which I never saw before. And in the greenhouses are several noble specimens of the magnificent cactus Spexisimissius. In the garden is a tame demoiselle heron, which follows the gardener everywhere he goes. It had a mate, after whose death it used to walk for hours before the windows of the orange house, looking at itself in the glass. June 8, Monday. I picked up that most amusing book, German Popular Tales, and could not stop till I had finished it. I read it once when I was 5 years old and liked it very much. Cousin Susan showed me her microscope the other day, when I had not time to mention it. The microscope is a good-sized one and requires a strong light to show the objects. I saw in it the pollen, leaves, and petals of various plants. Their beauty is wonderful. They look like heaps of precious stones. The pollen of the grand scarlet poppy is particularly splendid. The petals of the pink and crimson geranium seem like rubies crowned with amethysts, and those of the spiderwort like a mass of amethysts. Cousin Susan, who is very obliging and good-natured, has also given me 2 or 3 lessons in coloring flowers by letting me see her do some. And I think we will leave it at that for today. We've gone several pages here, but we're only still in the first 10 days of June here. And so she certainly had lots to write about her trip to London. So when we come back next time, we will proceed with the entry for June 11th, 1835.